Hi, kindergartners. Welcome to Writer's Workshop. Today we are going to continue working on those persuasive writing stories that you started the other day. Now, today, our job is to convince people. Convincing people means to get them to do what we want or what we think by giving them lots of reasons why our idea is so great. So today, I'm wondering if you have heard the story called The Pied Piper. In this story, there is a town that is overcome with rats. Ugh. And the people that live in the town want the rats to go away. The rats are all over the place and they're even eating their food. So the mayor of the town comes up with a plan and he decides that he is going to pay someone to get rid of these rats and get them out of town for good. All the townspeople are wondering who would possibly be able to get rid of all these rats. They've been trying and trying and trying for years to get rid of these rats and they couldn't do it. All of a sudden this man appears in the crowd named the Pied Piper and he said, "I will do it." He uses his flute and he starts playing this music. All the people are kind of wondering, like, oh, what are you going to do? I don't think this is going to work. The Pied Piper keeps playing. And guess what? The rats run to follow him. And they followed him right out of town. Now, when you're writing, if you want to make the world better, we need to be a little bit like the Pied Piper in our writing. We don't need rats, but we need people to follow us. I'm going to tell you a little more about that. Instead of just telling people, here's what you should do, we need to have lots and lots of reasons of why they should follow our idea, why they should listen to what we're saying, and why they should do what we're suggesting. Do you remember our anchor chart from the other day? It says writers make the world better. They see a problem, they think about a problem, and then they write a lot. And I know that so many of you did a great job writing a lot. And you had lots of different ways to show your writing. We talked about making a sign, writing a letter, writing a book, and even a poem or a song. Do you remember my problem? My family not putting their dishes in the dishwasher, just putting them in the sink? Do you remember this letter that I wrote? Let's read it together. Dear family, please put your dirty dishes in the dishwasher instead of the sink. Thank you, Mrs. Rose. Now, I thought that this was a pretty good letter. But after I heard this story about the Pied Piper, I started thinking, you know what? I'm not very convincing. I'm not giving them lots and lots of reasons as to why they should put their dishes in the dishwasher instead of in the sink. So I need to think about that. I need to decide what are reasons that I can add to my writing to make it more convincing. So I started thinking, why do I want my family to put their dishes in the dishwasher? Well, the kitchen looks nicer when there's not a big sink full of dishes. Another reason is that it's a lot easier if everyone does their own. If they're walking their dishes over to put them in the sink, they might as well open the dishwasher and put them in there instead. It looks nice to have a clean sink. It feels good to have a clean sink. And then an important one is, when the dishes are not piled up in the sink, there's room for people to wash their hands or to get a towel to clean off the counters and do some important cleaning jobs as well. I'm going to think about how I can add these ideas into my writing. Here's what I decided to do. Remember, I'm adding lots of reasons. So look at my story now. This part is the same. Remember, when we add to our stories, we don't start over. We just rewrite and write over and cross things out and change it. We don't need to start again and rewrite it. So here's my letter that I already had. Dear family, please put your dirty dishes in the dishwasher instead of the sink. Then I added these sentences. See what you decide if this sounds good or not. I reminded them, if everyone helps, it is less work. The kitchen looks better when the sink is clean, and we need to have room to wash our hands so we can stay healthy. Thank you, Mrs. Rose. So you can see I didn't start over. I just added lots of reasons to be more convincing. What do you think? Do you think that my story now gives some good reasons as to why my family should put their dishes in the dishwasher instead of the sink? I think it's more convincing now. I gave them 3 very important reasons as to why it would be helpful. Now, remember, it's always okay to add a picture. It's always okay to add labels. But I want to show you what my story looked like when I added those important details in. I have a picture at the top of a nice clean sink, hoping that will help to be convincing. And then I wrote my story. Dear family, please put your dirty dishes in the dishwasher instead of the sink. If everyone helps, it is less work. The kitchen looks better when the sink is clean. We need to have room to wash our hands so we can stay healthy. Thank you, Mrs. Rose. Now remember, I did not start my story again. I did not rewrite this into a final copy, even though it kind of looks like it on the screen. It's okay for you to have words scratched out and added in different things here and there. That is what kindergarten writing looks like when we go back and add more. Today we're going back to add more so we can be more convincing. Now it's your turn to try. I want you to take out your story from last time. I want you to remember what problem you were trying to solve. It might be a great idea to go back and reread your story. And then I want you to think about, how can I be more convincing? What can I add to my story to make it better? To make people want to think what I'm thinking or to do what I want them to do. And then I want you to go ahead and add those ideas into your story. And remember, when you're done, you've just begun. You can always go back and reread your story. You can always go back and add more. You can add another picture, or if your story doesn't have a picture at all, make sure you add one on. Add labels, add those speech bubbles, or you might have another great idea that you think needs solving. And you can go back to that anchor chart and you can think about what that problem is. Think about how you're going to fix it and then write. Remember today when you are writing, just like always, we want our best kindergarten handwriting. We want to make sure that we have capital letters and punctuation at the end of our sentences. And we want to remember that when we come to a tricky word that we don't know how to spell, just like in the classroom, do you raise your hand and say, teacher, tell me how to spell this word? No. Your job is just stretch those words out. Hear those sounds and think about how that word should look. And then write it your best. It's okay if it's not perfect. We want to see that you are working hard to spell those words and to make the writing your best. We don't want to see all the words spelled perfectly because we know that that's not your work. We want you to do your best thinking and make it your own. Do a great job writing today, kindergartners. I can't wait to see some of the problems that you are going to solve, especially now that they are more convincing. Have a great afternoon.